this back, I will do the thing as usual where I wave my arms. So just skip to the part where I'm waving my arms if you want to skip to the good stuff. I'm just gonna make sure I got everything going here. My favorite part. Working on the technology. There we go. So I'm gonna wait a minute, make sure we have everybody in here, and then we'll kick this off. I'm gonna throw something up on the community. Oops. Wrong button. Hello. Just gonna give it another minute to make sure we have some more people come on in here. Got that wrapped around. Ooh. Feels pretty nice down here today. It's got a little colder. Hello. I'm just gonna wait like another minute just to see if we have anybody else pop on in here. If you have anything that you want to ask before I actually start talking, just throw it in the chat. I'll happily respond to whatever you got. I'm just gonna give like one more minute and we'll kick it off. I apologize if you're watching this live at any point or if you're watching this back because I am a little bit under the weather as of yesterday. Just like, I guess the sinuses and stuff are kicking in. So if I'm a little slower with my speaking and I'm kind of nasally, that's why. It's been a long and awesome weekend. So this stream for today is kind of designed to be kind of a piggyback off of the last one because the last one I did during the week, and I think I'm just going to stick to doing these on the weekends, at least for now, because more people are free on the weekends. And as much as I love talking to myself and having people watch these replays, I think there's a lot more value in people being there live and being able to ask questions live and get that kind of stuff clarified. So I'm going to go ahead and start kicking this off. So I just recently posted just yesterday, I think, right? I don't know, I had the schedule sent up, but just recently I had just thrown up the next episode of the Pathway of Learning, which starts to talk about that lovely optical illusion, which if you had not had an opportunity to look at that yet, I'm going to wholeheartedly tell you you're in for a real treat because it's probably one of the most uncommon things that people like to talk about because it's just not something you really realize, right? Like when you actually sit down and look at a true 2-scale lane with all the dimensions and all the measurements and everything laid out, it's pretty baffling how actually thin that thing is opposed to what you think you're seeing. So I'm going to wave my hands for anyone watching back the replay. We're starting. So I will talk again about the pins because I still think it's very important because I know only 2 videos in the Pathway of Learning are going to discuss the pins and the deflection you're getting with your ball, but that concept is very difficult to understand, especially if you're like just now starting to hear about some of this kind of stuff because it's almost like the lane in that it's like you're telling me like the ball's doing the same thing every time. Like when I first heard that, I was kind of baffled too. So I'll hit that again, and then we'll start to talk about a little bit of that optical illusion video, and I'll try my best. I have this really small whiteboard. I actually came with one this time, so we'll see how that turns out if I can get it to scale. Who made it not to scale images? I don't like that anymore. It's all marketing. They're trying to make the balls look like they're hooking a ton, and they get you to buy them, and then it's like, oh my god, like it's all the same. You don't know how it is. Everyone's got to make their money. I'm all for it. But yeah, I know it's you would think, or you'd even think like, because I remember when I was at that seminar with Brad Angelo, we were kind of talking like even like if they were drawing out the photos, like the bird's eye view, I get why you draw something like that, but why wouldn't you draw it to scale, or at least like think of like the POV, like when you're looking at the lane and how it's like has that like that image, like the pins aren't dots like this, but they're instead like this is the stuff you're seeing. This is what you're seeing. I drew it really bad, but this is what you're seeing. But it's not even that drastic. It's more like you get what I'm saying? Like why don't they draw the line from your perspective in actual time, not a bird's eye view? Because it is kind of, it's very deceitful. It is. It's kind of scummy that they do that kind of stuff, in my opinion. But again, I'm not trying to get in any of that kind of stuff. So the pins. I know we've been, and if you're just tuned in late, I said it a little bit earlier, I'm a little under the weather, so just kind of bear with me today. My sinuses are like so flared up. I have no idea why they decided to flare up so bad, but so the pins. So I think there's a big disconnect that at least people who have been reaching out to me that has been kind of, maybe I just didn't explain it very well when I had explained it previously, but we need to make sure that we're accurately relating the angle of entry to how much of the head pin we're using. That's the bottom line. Like when I have my little photo here, which it's probably flipped for you guys, is it? Is this like flipped? Is the 10 in like the other corner? Of course it is. So this is flipped. So I guess you're looking at it in the eyes. So I'll draw it backwards. To any capacity, that's the path that your ball should be creating, right? The 1, the 3, the 5, and the 9. And yes, I know it's flipped, so ignore the numbers. But this is the path your ball should be creating. And the pins hit each other like so. So you can see head pin goes here, this pin goes here, this pin goes here, hit this pin goes here, this pin goes here. You hit the 5 and you hit it into the 8. So that is the optimal path. But again, that isn't always how we're striking. Your ball could have too much deflection and bounce off, and you could still strike. It could have not enough deflection and go through the 8 pin as opposed to the 9 pin. And there are so many ways to strike. Or if you watch that little short of mine that I put up where I didn't even hit the head pin and it struck, like that's just how it is sometimes, right? But the bottom line is, depending on how long your bowling ball is going down the lane before it hooks, which if you just watch that last one with the angle of entry, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like those little black lines on the lane that show the degrees of angle of entry to the pocket. That is how much of the head pin that you have to be hitting, how close to the center of it you're hitting, right? If you're a bowling ball, I'm not going to put the numbers on these pins since they're all flipped. So I'm just going to put, that was really great. I should say the thing everyone says, I'm not an artist or whatever. So the bottom line is, God, that does not look good at all. I am so sorry. Anyway, if your bowling ball is having, I'm gonna get a different color. We'll do blue and we'll do red. We'll do blue and green. No, those are too similar. We'll do blue and red. I changed my mind. So I will draw 2 different angles of entry. And I'm gonna kind of explain this topic a little bit further. So the blue one, once I flip this, is going to be a smaller degree, aka it's not coming in as far from the right into the head pin. And the red one's going to be one with more degrees of angle, that's coming in more from the right. It got a little stain from the black pen, but we'll go with it. So these are the 2 different angles. So if you notice, do you see how this blue one is a little bit closer to the center on this head pin as opposed to this red, black stained color one, and how it's a little further? So if your ball is coming in at a steeper angle, as it is in this red one, it's going to have much more force coming in to the side of the pin. So what that means is you want it to deflect more, because if you're too close, if you hit it as close as this blue one is, it's coming in from such a steep angle that it's going to carry through too much, and you're not going to have enough deflection. Versus this blue one, it's going to have an easier time deflecting off of this more, since it's not coming in from as steep to the side. So what that means is you have to be closer to this so it doesn't bounce off too much. So that means if you take this blue line and have it go over where this red line hits, it's going to have too much deflection and start to ricochet off the pins that way, right? So you have to base how much of that head pin you're using based off of the angle that you are creating. I think I might have just quoted myself word for word there, but that's exactly the point. So this came up from a buddy in one of my leagues, because he actually said he found my channel and was talking about it, and he said, so how come in a perfect world, we're thinking leagues, so think house shot, think forgiving, think exactly what you're trying to think, right? So he said that he would have it carrying through well, but then he would miss like his target, but the oil, obviously, since it's house, would help out to get him back into the pocket. And he was like, Logan, like I'm not carrying through the 10 pin, or I'm going light all of a sudden. Like why is it, even though it's hitting the same spot, even when I'm missing, it's hitting the same spot, why is it not carrying through the same way? Okay, let's just think about this logically for just a moment. If we have forgiveness, right, in the oil, right, more oil in the middle, less oil on the outside. If we have forgiveness, right, and we're hitting the third arrow, again, just completely making up something here. That's our target, and when we hit the third arrow, it is creating a 3 degree of angle, and it's striking perfect, okay? So we're hitting the third arrow from the right, it's creating 3 degrees of angle, and it's striking perfectly. Now let's say I miss my arrow to the right a little bit. Let's say I miss it like an inch to the right. So now that ball is seeing the outside of the lane sooner, aka seeing friction sooner, which means it's going to have less longevity. So it's going to have a little less than 3 degrees of angle now. So sure, you're hitting the same spot, but your angles now have some, like your angle of entry now has some variance because of that miss you just had. Vice versa, if I miss a little to the left of that third arrow, it's now going to be in the thicker oil for longer, which means it's going to wait longer before it sees that change in direction. So now, if I miss to the left, instead of it having 3 degrees of entry angle, it's now having 3.5 degrees, 4 degrees. And now, all of a sudden, I left a stone 9 or a stone 8 because my ball had too much continuity and not enough deflection, because, sure, I'm hitting that same spot on the head pin, but because I'm missing my target, there's a little bit of slight variance, right? So the thing about the house patterns that all of us bowl on, or at least have bowled on at one point, is they're designed to not punish you as hardly, but they still punish you. Like, you're always going to see punishment. I think the big misconception with that oil, and I know I'm kind of going outside of it with deflection, but it feeds into this concept, right? Like, if you're bowling on a sport shot, which I bowled on, oh my God, countless sport shots. If you're bowling on a sport shot and you miss, it'll punish you because it just won't let you hit the head pin. Like if you miss your arrow or whatever by like 2 or 3 inches, like the ball's just not going to respond the same way. So it'll punish you. And house is forgiving in that it'll not surrender where you're hitting on the pocket. However, it's still going to create a vast amount of variance in those entry angles that you're creating. So it's almost punishing you in a more silent way. But obviously, I'd rather leave a flat 10 pin than like just completely miss the head pin and have a washout like piece of crap split that I have to now shoot at, right? Oh my God, yeah, that feels so nice to drink this water. Yeah, my sinuses are really flared up. I have no idea why. And again, throughout this, just ask questions. It doesn't have to be about this. Like this whole thing is just designed to just help you guys out in anything you have. But just remember in the back of your mind, like I have to relate that degree of angle of entry to how close to the head pin I'm creating. And depending on what you're bowling on, like it's not gonna always be perfect. Like if you're not perfect, it will punish you. Like even like sometimes like you might even strike or you could miss and it could still strike, but if it's not striking the same way that it did on the last shot, that's a telltale sign, hey, I better not miss there again because it's probably not going to carry the same way, right? Like, by understanding, this is a big thing I should have touched on more too, is like by understanding how these pins are deflecting, understanding these angles of entry that you're creating into the pocket, that helps you stay ahead of the moves. I'd much rather all of you guys be able to predict an adjustment as opposed to adjust to something after you've been punished for not adjusting sooner, right? Like it's one thing if you're like leaving a couple light things and then you're moving off of what you're leaving, as opposed to just moving like making an educated guess and predicting like for example, I had a phenomenal game just this past Friday. It was like a 250 game, right? Like it was phenomenal. And it was phenomenal because it wasn't because of the fact that like, oh, I had so much room to mess up and it still struck. It wasn't because of that, guys. It's because on the very first shot I threw, I struck. But was it a textbook strike? No. I'm surprised it didn't leave a 10 pin. I mean, it deflected so bad. I think the ball actually almost hit the 10 pin itself. Like it was so horrible. But I saw that, and if I wasn't able to see that and didn't understand those concepts, I wouldn't have moved. And then on the next shot, I would have left the 10 pin, maybe spared it, left it again, got mad, and then I would have missed a spare. And then you're just down the dirty spiral into the you know what I mean? Like you're just falling apart. But by me being able to see that, I made an adjustment before I needed to, or before I was able to see it, and I scored so well because I just stayed ahead of the moves the whole time, right? And I haven't touched on it a lot yet, but it's going to be the next thing, is going to be actually talking about the oil and how it breaks down. And like with every throw, that not even, it could be like with every throw you throw, an opponent throws, even if it's a warm-up throw, a spare throw, like that oil is shifting and it's moving and it's drying up and it's redepositing oil. Different balls soak up oil different ways. Different balls chew up oil different ways. And it's like, you have to just predict it. Like take the best guess you can off that last throw and make your best guess on the next one and stay ahead of these errors. If you have a 10-pin toolkit app, I think the angles and targeting tab is relatively to scale the bird's eye view, by the way. Yes, that 10-pin toolkit app is pretty good. I was actually going to talk about that a little bit. They actually have it doesn't actually talk about angle of entry, but it's kind of cool because if you look at it, it's free, by the way. I'm not like sponsored or promoting these guys or anything, but it's like, it's kind of cool a little bit because this is kind of cool. You'll like this epic because it's cool. And what you can do is you can set it up to where it'll throw a shot and you actually have to tell the system, okay, where was my feet on that shot? Where did it hit at the arrows? Where was the break point? Which there is no break point. We'll get into that in a second. How it deflected, aka where it left off the deck. And it'll actually tell you, okay, you were a board off on where it hit the arrows. Okay, you were spot on with where it hit here. You were spot on with where it hit here or whatever. And it's like, that's cool because like that's a really great thing to help you train your sight. And it's from the perspective of you standing there throwing. It's not like a bird's eye view down. It's like from the perspective of you standing and throwing, and it shows the ball, like how it's rotating and stuff. It's really, really cool. And like you were just saying with the angles and targeting tab, like it's just how it is, guys. Like most of these drawings they're gonna have aren't gonna be to scale because that's just not what we're used to seeing. Like if that's what we were all used to seeing, then that's what they draw everything as, but it's just not. It's just all a big marketing thing. So, all right, because I talked about the pin characteristics and deflection a lot in the last stream, I want to start to kind of dive a little bit more into the optical illusion, which again, if you're here and you've watched that optical illusion, you're probably like, are you kidding me? Like that is crazy. You should have, I would pay myself money to go back and see how my reaction was because, oh my God, I was just in absolute awe at the fact that like, what we're shown versus what it really is when you actually draw it out is actually diabolical. Like you when you're standing there looking at a lane, it looks so wide and you're like, man, I'm hooking the ball so much. I'm hitting the pocket harder. I'm getting the hardest strikes. I'm doing all this and everybody else. And then you draw it out and you're like, oh my, like that's all that the ball moved to the side. Like, that's crazy. So let's kind of relate this to real life. I just want to make this very, very clear. So I grabbed this ruler. Okay, I know you can't read any of it, but I don't want you to be able to read it, and I'm going to tell you why. So I want you just to close your eyes for a minute and let's just think. Let's just think of when you're bowling. Okay? Okay, just think of like a time where you're like, man, I'm hooking the ball a lot, right? Like I'm getting it pretty close to the gutter and it's responding, right? Okay? Just about all of you, I'm just going to be honest. Allow me to rephrase, literally all of you and every professional, none of you are hooking the ball 18 inches to begin with. None of you out there are going to put yourself in a position where you have to get that ball to get on the edge of the gutter and get as close to the head pin as it can get. That's just, nobody is doing that. Nobody is. I would say I haven't done like any data analysis on this yet, but I probably should. I would say on average, you're only covering about 10, 11 inches like of lateral movement in terms of what we discussed in that video. And if I put my thumb on 10 inches, ignore this. This is how much you hook the bowling ball. This is it. Like, the bowling ball itself is this wide. This is how much you're hooking the bowling ball. Yeah. So if you think those drawings are crazy, relate it to real life, and this is the reality. And if you are hooking it 12 inches, then this is how much you're hooking it. This is 12 inches compared to the ball. Look at that. Yeah. It is not moving literally at all compared to what we think it's moving, right? It's all elusive because of that depth perception that we have in our eyes. Like the diameter of this bowling ball, if you're playing straighter and not getting it to go as close to that gutter line, this is 8.5 or 8.595 inches, so about 8.6 inches wide. So the diameter of this is how much you're hooking the bowling ball, right? And sure, you might be standing on the left side of the lane, but the only reason you're standing on the left side of the lane, people, is because you need it to skid through that oil in the center for longer so it doesn't hook too soon. Like, when I was talking so much on how nobody's hooking the bowling ball more than anybody else, that's what I mean by that concept, is because it's so little. It's doing so little, and the only variance in between you and someone else that's bowling is you're just having to throw it and get it to skirt through the center where all that oil is, because if you don't, it's just going to do too much with the friction, right? These new age bowling balls and new age equipment, if you have, like, if your parents or your grandparents or anybody have an old bowling ball, like I'm talking like the rubber bowling balls, I dare you to take that ball and try and throw it, and it will not hook at all. These new bowling balls have so much technology and are so receptive to even just a little bit of friction that they're just, for most people, they're too much. Like, I know Epic Duck, I know you're in here, I know you just posted on my thing. I hope you don't mind about me talking about you, because you're a phenomenal example. Like, you have to balance physically some things, because these bowling balls, they're just too much. Like, it's just crazy. So for a lot of you, especially if you're brand new and you're getting into it, I strongly advise just getting like an entry level, because it's the closest you can get to the, I guess, quote unquote, old school equipment, and it's just the tamest stuff out there. That's why so many of these kids like to buy purple hammers and urethanes, because they have that old school stuff. Like the USBC is banning all these purple hammers and stuff now in league matches because of the fact that they're so tame and they do so little when they see friction that you can throw it on physically anything, right? Like, it's not like the reactive stuff where it waits, and it has that hockey stick, which we know that's not what it looks like anyway. It has that hockey stick look visually to our eyes, and when the urethane has that slow, kind of real chill kind of curve, right? So that's a big thing. But yeah, Epic Duck, I responded to. I hope it helps you out, obviously. I'm just trying to think. Like, it really is like just a massive shock. Like, you really do just have to base how much that head pin you're using based off the angle you're creating, and then learn how to navigate it there within the means of the lane that's in front of you, right? Given that we know how strong these bowling balls are, I don't want to talk about the physical stuff too much until we get into it, but this is still pertinent. Like, you don't have to work super hard to create so much spin and get the ball to spin at 90 degrees of angle of rotation, right? Like, it's so thin, guys. You don't have to put in that much work. The bowling ball, I promise you, will put in plenty of work for you. You just have to turn the wheel a little bit. If you turn the wheel too much, that thing's going to burn out and skid, and everything else is just going to be horrible, right? So the next topic that I'm going to discuss, it might be the next, it might be the one following the next. I'm not 100% too sure. It's still kind of a toss-up on how I want to go in with that. But the angle of which the ball is coming off of your hand is what we call the angle of rotation, not to be confused with the angle of entry. Angle of entry is the angle of entry pertains to the angle of entry to the pocket. The angle of rotation pertains to the angle degrees to the left that ball is rotating off of your hand. For example, 90 degrees of rotation would be rotating literally 90 degrees to the left from where I'm standing. 45 degrees would be 45, 10 degrees, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you get the point. So, I saw that and thank you. I was previously looking at the Storm Typhoon, but I don't know if it'll work on. The Storm Typhoon's a pretty good option. You just need to really find something that entry or like low mid-level, because that's the kind of stuff what most of the stuff that you'll be bowling on, especially in high school, kind of caters toward. But yeah, that's a decent choice. Just make sure that you take it into your pro shop and have them drill it up for you. So angle of rotation. So if we think about the angle of rotation, this very directly relates to that angle of entry you're creating. So, what's a good way so let's think of like a car. Let's think of like when you're driving, right? You're driving on ice, right? If you're going 50 miles an hour in a car and you're driving the wheel, you're holding on the wheel, right? And you have that wheel turned 90 degrees all of a sudden. Do you think it's going to have an easy time turning? No, it's not going to have an easy time turning. But now let's say on that icy road, all of a sudden the ice cuts off and it's bone dry, like completely dry, not an ounce of liquid on that. If you're driving like this at 50 miles an hour, if I'm driving and I twist my wheel to the left 90 degrees, it's going to not be able to turn. But then the minute it sees that cut off in the oil, that's when the car is going to dart to the side. So let's flip the script. If I'm driving, okay, 50 miles an hour, same scenario, and I only turn my wheel 20 degrees to the side, it's going to have an easier time turning, pretty slight. And then when it sees the cutoff, it's not going to do a whole lot because most of the car's already turned. You see, I think you're getting the ball rolling. Get it? That was funny. You get it. You're starting to get it now, right? So based off of that angle, how much you're turning that wheel or how much to the side that ball's rotating, that will feed into how long and aggressive it seems, right? Like that hockey stick-like motion where it's going, gone. You get that motion when you tend to have a lot more like angle of rotation, and then you're standing on the left, so it's in the oil, can't do anything, and the second that oil cuts off, that ball just says, time to go, and it just takes off. That is not what you want. That is not what you want. You don't need to do that, and we know we don't need to do that because the lane, this is how much you're hooking the ball. Allow me to rephrase. This is how much most of you are hooking the ball, right? So we don't have to put in so much work to force that ball to giddy up. It's just a very slight little bit of twist. That's all you got to do. It's just a little bit of twist. And again, I'm not going to go too much into how to create that yet because we'll get into that. But just think, okay, before I even throw the bowling ball, I don't have to put in so much work. If it is a bowling ball that isn't a house ball because the house balls don't have that tech on the inside, if it's a ball that's drilled to my hand and I own a ball, like it will respond. I just have to adjust where I'm standing to have it see more friction sooner, aka get to the outside sooner, or less friction sooner, aka glide through the center where all the oil is. That's all it is. That's all it is. And now, these are different ways of adjusting. So for me personally, I find it easy to change how around the ball my hand can get. So if I'm leaving a 10 pin, right, that means, oh, okay, from where I'm standing, the angle of entry is not steep enough and it's deflecting. So what I do on my setup, if I'm here, I'll cant my hand a little bit inwards. And now my hand's getting more around the ball. So now it's hooking the same amount, but the shape it's creating is creating that more, it's providing for more longevity and a more aggressive reaction on the back end of the lane. So now I'm staying in the same spot on the pocket, but I now have a slightly more degree of angle of entry because of the angle of rotation that I've created. Thus, now no more 10 pin. It's a beautiful thing, people. You don't have to rely on left and right moves. So, this was a good question. This was a phenomenal question about left and right moves. Left and right moves. So, literally couldn't have been more than 10 minutes after I posted that video, I got a message on Instagram. And one of these guys who had been a fan of my Instagram, and then he discovered this YouTube, and now he's here. He was like, Coach Logan, like, if you're trying to tell me that there's not much width and the ball's only hooking this much, like, why would I ever want to make a left and right move? Like, why would that be like an adjustment that I want to make? Well, let's think about it. I kind of discussed this in the basic bowling adjustments, which is also in the pathway of learning, but I just want to expand on it so it makes sense. If we know for every, like, the measurement is there's 40 times more length than there is width of the lane. 40 times, right? So if we know the length is 40 times more important than the width, what that means is a 1-inch adjustment to the left and right versus a 1-inch adjustment front and back is making 40 times the difference. 40 times the difference. So anytime I move a single floorboard to the left or right, I would have had to have moved 40 times that forward and backward to create that same exact thing, in theory. Obviously, that's not how it is because it's a different world. But like in theory, that's what the theory is. So left and right moves are more gratifying of a change to make because you're changing the zone in which you're playing the lane entirely, for one, and two, it's making such a big difference in such a quick and easy adjustment, right? That's the bottom line. So I'm not telling you not to make left and right moves just because of the fact that it's 40 times less important. I'm just saying when you make it, realize that you're making a massive difference with very little because of the fact that it's so sensitive to left and right movements, right? So if you're literally so close to striking or you're right there, I wouldn't make a left and right adjustment. I would make a forward and backward adjustment because that's a big thing. We were talking about rubber bowling balls. Packy did a video with it, and they had to stay on the 10 and aim 5 because there was no oil on the edge lane. Yeah, that's also two-handed, so 400-ish. Yeah, exactly. Like that old school equipment just does not read it. Yeah, like, you know, like what's that stuff they talk about? Like the race to the nukes, like with like the different countries and stuff. It's almost like that, except it was bowling ball companies producing stronger bowling balls, and oil companies, like oiling machine companies, making the lanes more oily. So these guys would make a stronger ball, and these guys would put more oil, and these guys would make a stronger ball, and these guys would put more oil. And they just went tug of war back and forth, and now the amount of oil is like 8,000 times what it was. These balls are 12,000 times as stronger. Like, it was just a race to see who could create more because people like that. But yes, so the bottom line with making left and right moves is just realize that in theory, it's making 40 times the difference because of the fact that there's 40 times more length than there is width. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. So left and right adjustments are usually very, very useful when you're bowling against multiple other people, because if you have 9 people standing here and one person is standing here when they release the bowling ball, all these people are now throwing over each other. And like this zone, I call it zones, this zone of like the lane is transitioning 9 times quicker than what this guy has. That's why there's so much a big debate on whether or not lefties have it easier, because I'm trying to think what the stat is now. I think it's for every one lefty bowler, there's about 8 point some righties. So that means lefties have less of that invisible playing field changing as quickly, like 8 times less. So if you're a righty, you need to focus on playing on different zones. That's when making those left and right moves is very useful. Like, you don't have to confine yourself to playing one area. Like, move to the left and throw the ball slower and get it to read more, or move to the right and throw the ball harder and get it to read less, or change like that degree of the angle of rotation off your hand to allow yourself to move more to the left. Because if you're standing way over here and the wheel has to be turned this much, but your release is only releasing with you turn the wheel this much, it's never going to be able to hook, no matter how slow, fast, anything you throw it. You have to match that angle of rotation, or how much you're turning that wheel to the side to where you're standing on the lane, and to that angle of entry that you're hoping to create. The point of the oil originally was to protect the wooden lane from damage. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the oil, that's actually really cool that you mentioned that. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Yeah, so the oil, this oil that we're playing on and trying to navigate around, was not at any point designed to be like a challenging thing or a condition. It was literally just designed at one point to just protect those old school wooden lanes from damage or wear and tear and stuff. But a handful of guys back then learned and started to learn about the science behind it and how you had to create 3 degrees to carry through those pins easier. So they were like, well, we can't throw from the other lane over. So they started to rotate their hand, and it just took off from there. And then there was that race between bowling ball company versus oil company, back and forth, fighting for who can make balls hook more and look flashier and prettier and whatever. And now it's to where it is today. It's pretty cool. Yes, it's a pretty cool story. But yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into that whole like turn the wheel thing, because that'll be once we get into this navigation sector like of the lane. I think based off of how I have it now for the pathway of learning, what my plan is to have it discuss the oil more in depth, because I touch on it so many times that I just want to have a video that just like lays it out in a lot more detail and make more sense. And then I'll talk about the whole turn the wheel analogy and the car on ice analogy. And then I'll talk about the different zones. So like, you know, the different zones you can play by moving to the left or to the right. And then we'll start to get into the physical stuff and how you can create those different angles of rotation off your hand and everything and all that good stuff. But the bottom line throughout the entirety of this series and every series I produce is you have to always keep in the back of your mind that stuff I'm saying, or at least it'll become a lot more pertinent when I get to the physical part, but I try to steer clear as best as I can from, like, this is what I do. This is how I prefer to do it, because all of us have strengths and weaknesses within the physical side and the mental side and everything in our bowling games. We all do. Nobody throws the ball the same way. Nobody's supposed to throw the ball the same way, because if everyone was supposed to throw the ball the same way, there'd only be one professional, and that would be the only way to bowl. That's not the way this sport works, right? That's like saying in basketball, there's only one actual way to shoot a basketball, and everyone except for LeBron James is not playing real basketball. Like, that's just not, it's not the way it is. Nobody throws the bowling ball the same. Nobody's delivery is the same. Nobody has the 100% exact same strengths and 100% exact same weaknesses. Jason Belmonte's style is so different than Simon's. Exactly, yeah, great example. Like, all these bowlers throw the ball in so many different ways, but it's about, the only time I'll provide what works for me is to kind of give you a sense of, like, the best practice within this sport is to find what best works for you. So when I create these series, I do my best to create analogies and stuff, like the car, like with turning the wheel and stuff, like all that stuff I create so that you can take that knowledge and apply it to what you know does and what you think doesn't work for you, right? So don't think that something that I'm saying as an example for me is something that works for you, but you just have to gauge it, right? And again, it'll come with time as this series continues to develop, and it'll become a lot more applicable to the physical stuff, because a lot of physical stuff I do is not at all what's like favorable. It's just not. I have a lot of very big things that I'm still working on too, like all of you guys, right? And I will openly admit to that. All of us are working on things right now. So don't think that something I'm saying is through and true and works for everybody, because it just doesn't. Everyone has their own way of throwing the ball. I actually showed this in a previous video, but I think the bottom line for most of this stuff that I need to keep in all the back of your heads is just think, is something that I'm doing or something that I'm thinking that is against what is commonly perceived as conventional, am I seeing some sort of benefit from doing that? Like, here's a great example. This actually is a great example. We were just talking about how you don't have to force your hand or force yourself to get in it. I know you're in the Army. Oh, you know me? Yeah, I like it. I love it in the service. It's a good time. Yeah, if any of you are wanting to join, let me know. I'll hook you up. It's a good gig. But with the angle of rotation. Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's good. Yeah, go for it. With the angle of rotation that you're creating with your hand, and that degree of that you're turning the wheel, right? Like how I just discussed how the lane, most of it are only hooking at this much, right? You don't have to rotate a ton. So for me, I used to have a problem like you, Epic Duck, if you're still in here, I used to have that same problem where I was just getting, at least I'm guessing you have this similar problem where your hand's getting so around the ball and you might not be able to, you're running out of lane because your ball speed's lower. And because that wheel has turned so much, it's on that lane for so long that it's able the car's able to pick up and turn. So what I did is this is my setup, people. And I'll tell you, you're going to be like, are you kidding me? This is how you set up. So I used to set up pretty conventionally, something like this, right? I would set up like this when I first started two-handed, but now you're going to call me crazy. This is my setup. Look at that. Who is doing that? The best guy I can look up is Tomas Kaiko. He does something like this. But why do I do this? Why do I do something unconventional? Because now, with my hand being presented dead forward, like this, look where my offhand is. My hand is so inside the bowling ball that no matter how hard I try to twist this, I physically cannot get it more than like 25, 30 degrees around the bowling ball. So that is why I do that. That is why I do that. Something that I am doing unconventional plays to a strength that I have, which is allowing for me to create an advantage, right? If you're doing something unconventional or thinking something unconventionally that actually is seeing no benefit from you doing, then I would advise that that is a time that you should think, okay, maybe I need to rethink my approach. Maybe I have to change something. Maybe I have to do whatever. Yes, I used to be on board 1-5 and it would go to the, yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Yep, so you just have to learn how to play the lane. And that now you know how to do it, so it'll get better. But bottom line is, you just have to think. This, again, certainly a lot more applicable on the physical stuff, but it's still very useful in the mental. Think like, is something that I'm thinking providing a benefit by me using said analogy? Or is something that I'm doing when I throw providing a benefit? Or is it just something that is just creating an extra room for error, right? In a perfect world, in a very perfect world, if to throw a strike every time, I just had to do this. If I just had to do that to throw a strike every time, I would do that because within bowling, there are so many moving parts and so many spots that things can have some sort of variance in it that in a perfect world, if you could just do one thing like this and throw a bowling ball at the right amount of speed and revs and stuff to have the adequate amount of deflection and the adequate amount of angle of entry and the adequate amount of angle of rotation off your hand, then that would be perfect because the less moving parts there are, the less there is that can go wrong. But within bowling, you're moving, the things are happening so quick and so many things are moving and there's so many different parts, especially with this new equipment and the new bowling, like all these two-handers that you see just ripping the cover stock off these balls. Like there's so many moving parts that you have to pick out some things that are just that you're just not seeing benefit from. It's impossible, right? Like I'm actually going to have a video that I think is going to be another pretty big eye-opener is like, why do we have an approach? Like with a lot of people that are out there now, they throw the ball so well. I don't even think they have to have an approach. I think they could just stand at the foul line and throw the ball and they could compete professionally. So why do we have an approach? We have it because we're seeing some sort of benefit from that. Why am I teaching you the deflection? I'm teaching you that because we see the benefit from that when it comes to bowling in our scores because we can stay ahead of the moves. Why am I teaching you the angle of entry? Because there's a benefit from that. Why am I talking about the angle of rotation? Because there's a benefit from that. Why are me and Epic Duck talking about the history of bowling oil? Because there's a benefit to you understanding what that stuff is doing, right? Like all this stuff is coming at a benefit. So, and the best thing yet is why am I showing you the dimensions of the lane? So you can understand and see the benefit and understand that you don't have to do so much, right? All this stuff is coming at you to a benefit, right? And by me teaching it in a way that's unconventional, and by me not talking about the physical thing first, that's not conventional, but we're seeing a benefit because we're doing it unconventionally. Versus if we do something normally conventionally, or if I do something different just because of whatever, and it's not a good habit, or it's not something that is universally should be followed, or not something that is applicable to every bowler, then I know, okay, maybe I have to shy away from that thing, right? Like if me in my setup doing this weird thing, this weird setup is making my hand go in different spots, if I'm falling off balance, if I'm doing whatever, then why should I do that, right? Like if my arm swing comes around my body like this, what benefit am I seeing from that, right? All that means is I have to release the ball at the perfect point in time for it not to miss my target, right? There's no benefit from that, right? A lot of people struggle with balance. I'm using a lot of physical examples because this is just the easiest to talk about. So again, I'm not trying to go too much into it, but a lot of people fall off balance. But some people fall off balance because they have like that little hop, like a little bunny hop. And some people do it so they can loft the ball more. Good for you. You're seeing some benefit from that. You get what I'm saying? I was getting the reliable angle with the spare ball the other night. I found the right. Yeah, because again, it's just it caters well to how you throw. Yeah. The bottom line is, this is a good thing that I can go into, is there is a piece of equipment that caters to all of you. There are bowling balls. There are ways that you can lay out where the fingers go, how pitched they are. They can all fit to your hand. If you want to throw with these two fingers, I met someone on Friday that bowled with these two fingers. First time I've seen that. He's a no thumb, bowled with his pinky and his ring finger. No thumb, one-handed. And he averaged like 225 on the night. He was the best bowler in the house. Best bowler in the house. I bet a lot of people don't know that. I know guys who do Sarge Easter grips where the grips are like this. This finger goes all the way in, and this is a fingertip. I've seen claw grips. I've seen people with 3 fingers in a bowl. I've seen people with 4 fingers like this that bowl back when I coached at a high school. Like, there are so many ways that you can cater the equipment to how you throw. But you need to be sure that you're ridding out. Yep, Tom Smallwood. Yep, he does stuff like that too. Yes, you need to just think, like, is by me doing something different seeing a benefit? Am I seeing a benefit from doing that? Right? That's the bottom line. Yeah, definitely going to stick to doing weekends because we're getting a lot of really good engagement in this stream. This is the best engagement I've had in a stream so far, so I appreciate all of you guys. And again, like, I'm trying to make as much time as I can to keep on posting, adding to like the Pathway of Learnings, and I'm hoping sometime once I start to get closer toward the end of the Pathway of Learning, I'm going to start one called Bowling for Newbies, and it'll be like basics, like here's how scoring works, here's how the lane works, here's how whatever, here's how bowling balls work, here's how you hook a bowling ball, stuff along those lines. So that'll be a nice series as well. And if you guys have more suggestions on more videos and more series and stuff, because we have a Quick Tip Tuesday coming up, so if you have something you want to see for that, like, let me know. There's been a lot of really good feedback, and it's been extremely engaging and extremely helpful for me to make sure that I'm giving you guys back. Do I still coach high school? With my new job now, I work like a 9 to 5, so I have a hard time finding a good, like, with a lot of high school schedules, like, it's just not very well catered to my hours that I work. So unfortunately last year I had to let it go, which was very, very upsetting. But obviously I'm still finding best ways I can to give back to people. I'm sure some people from the school I coached at probably actually are on here. Please, Coach. Yep, there is one in here. Yep, there's Riley. So exactly. So I'm hoping that with my work schedule and stuff, I can for sure get back into it, or at least like have an assistant coaching position, because bowling has done so much for me. It's insane. Like I cannot be more grateful for all the things that bowling has taught me and all of the chances it's given me. And there's no better way for me to give back to the community by when I coached high school, or by doing stuff like this at the very, very least. Like, any means I can have to give back to people is like my #1 priority. And this is like a phenomenal means of doing that. Like, there's nothing better than knowing that you're having an impact on people, because that's what I value most in my actual career and my bowling career. Like, that's what I value the most. So again, for people like all of you guys, and it's cool to see Riley in there too. Like, that's cool. So the best thing I can ask, especially if you are someone who I've coached before, is like, just stay in touch, stay engaged, stay asking questions, and don't lose sight of the sport, because there will come a time, especially if you're a younger viewer watching, where this tends to happen for a lot of people. Like, as you get older, like, your schedule just gets booked and booked with more and more things. And it's very upsetting to me that I can't still coach to the degree I used to before. Like, that's sad. And that's why all I can say is to enjoy it while you can, and to soak up all this content and stuff, because there will be a time where time becomes less and less available. But yeah, it's a great experience coaching. I love coaching. I'm trying to think what else. We still have about 20 minutes left here, and I feel like I've gone so far off the rails here. I'm so sorry, but this has been a very good talk. I'm glad that we went off the rails here to go more into stuff you guys are asking, and to go into more things I've been asked by other means outside of this stream, because I know those people that like spoke to me over Instagram and those people that spoke to me in person will definitely watch this video back. So I'm glad that we're able to dive into that kind of stuff. But I really don't have anywhere else to go. If I go any further down any of these, I'm just going to start diving into concepts that we don't I don't particularly want to cover yet until I can produce a pathway of learning video for all of you guys to at least have a basic concept of understanding so I can kind of expand on some of the stuff in that. So for now, if you have any questions, again, does not have to be pertinent to what I'm asking, ask away. Would absolutely love to provide the best clarification that I can for all of you guys. The absolute best clarification I can. Because I know a lot of this stuff is very difficult, especially like when you're seeing it for the first time. Like, especially the lane. Like, I mean, even still, like when you're out there and you're bowling, it's like, wow, like that really is what the lane looks like? Like, no way. There's no way. But then if you have a center that's cool, you can ask the desk if you can like walk in the back. And when you walk back there, like I did in that video where Rob was throwing a ball at me, it's like, wow, that thing is long. It really isn't moving that much at all. It's just kind of skidding and just kind of rolling like a car on ice. It really is what it is. That's exactly what it looks like. Oh yeah, have any of you guys done any of those challenges with the recording the spares relieving and stuff? Or obviously I just posted the video, but I would advise like take a video of a shot you liked and try to map it out on a 2-scale thing and see what it looked like. Like take note of where your feet were, where it hit the arrows, how far down lane it got before it started to see the friction board, not break point, how it went through the pins, what pin hit into what and how. Like draw all those lines and see what it looks like, and it's pretty baffling. It's pretty baffling. And same if you ever are in like a league or practicing or something and you have one of those spare worksheets, like if you miss a spare, don't just like put like, oh, I missed the 3-pin on that one on that spare. Put like, where did my ball go? Which way did I miss it by? If it's a multi-pin spare, how did my ball deflect and which pin hit into what that made it miss? Because that kind of stuff tells you a lot on like, okay, clearly I must have a problem with my spares on the left-hand side. I must have a problem with getting it to read too quick and it's not having a good amount of angle to carry through multi-pin spares. Or I must not be very great at my 10 pins because I can't lower that angle of rotation off my hand to make the wheel not turn as much to go at the 10 pin, or vice versa. Like, or if you miss in the gutter, it's like, okay, I have to move my sights to the left based off of where I was last time. Like, that spare worksheet is probably the most useful thing. And you don't necessarily have to print out a worksheet. Like, just get a piece of paper and put like just draw out 10 little circles and just put like a line for where your ball went and put what you left and why. Like here, I'll do an example. Because this is I'm super duper. I'm a huge advocate on doing this stuff because sure, it seems silly to do, but it's super useful. Also, with your Tip Tuesday, I would throw the ball into a beanbag chair with a full approach. Yeah, you can do that, yeah, as long as you have the room for it. I would say if you can try to work on creating different amounts of power, that's useful. Like I said on Quick Tip Tuesday, if you have room outside or whatever, like throwing it slower, throwing it hard, and all that kind of stuff. So, like, if this is what I have, right, let's say I left a bucket. Wait, I have to draw it backwards since it's flipped. Let's say I left a bucket. I'm using green for this. We'll say it went here, and it deflected. And it hit here, pin hit into here, this hit into here. Okay, I know this is like absolutely horrible, but bottom line is this thick green line is where my ball went. You can see I kind of shaded in. I'll shade them in a little better since it's hard to see on this camera. You can see my ball went through this thick line and it over deflected and it left the 5 pin in these ones. Head pin went off the wall and hit this pin out. Ball went down here, hit this pin and this pin, and I have this, right? So now I know, okay, clearly on that one, I did not have enough angle compared. My angle of entry was not well matched to how close it got to that head pin. And now, for my spare, let's say I like, it over deflected on me. We'll say my ball went here, bounced off, hit this pin here, and this pin went around. So now the red is the spare. So you can see it came in, hit this pin in the front, which went to the left, and this pin went around, and my ball over deflected and missed this pin in the back. And then I'll just circle this pin, and I'll record it as a 6, 3. It's backwards. Well, I can't write numbers backwards. I could try. Let me see. 6. That's humbling. 6, 3. Wait, I wrote the normal 3. Dang, this is crazy. This is weird. Here we go. 6, 3. So you can see my first ball, ignore the red for now. I'll just map this out if you're just not tuning in. This is what you can do on the spare sheet. Put, okay, here comes my ball, green ball, hit here, over deflected. This pin went around these two and hit this one in the corner. My ball hit this one. This pin went into this one. On my spare shot, which is the red line, came here, hit this pin into this one, which went away. Ball over deflected, went straight through this pin and left the one in the back. I circle it, so it's a 6-3 open. That's my score for that frame. And now, if you do this enough and do this for a full game's worth, you're going to come to find real quick what you have problems with, how you have problems with it, different ways to do stuff. And now that you're understanding these angles and stuff, you can kind of make a better judgment on how to adjust for that stuff moving forward. This has been a huge success, and I am so grateful for all of you for tuning in today. And I'm very sorry I'm kind of under the weather. I think I did a decent job at hiding it. I'm trying my best to not sniffle too much, but it's hard sometimes. Obviously, we have a quick tip Tuesday coming up. I'll try to pump out one, at least, hopefully two, maybe even 3 videos this week for the pathway of learning to keep you guys as engaged as I can. I don't want to have it be too slow for you guys, because I know since you guys are the early viewers and not people that are coming later on in the ball game, you're kind of at the mercy of me uploading. So I'm doing the best I can to make sure I keep on uploading for all of you guys. But I know we're a couple minutes early, but a lot of people have already tuned out. So I'll wait, see if we have any questions, but other than that, the ball game. Other than that, yeah, a little late to the ball game because I mean, if you're tuning in late, like you'll come and there'll be like full playlists already. You'll get to just watch it whenever you want. But I know for right now, since everyone that's here are the early viewers, you're just at the mercy of me continuing to upload. So, especially for you Epics, since I know bowling is coming up for you, I'll make sure I keep on pumping them out as quick as best as I can. And like I said, if I know you like to stay engaged, so just like keep reaching out to me however you can. If it's the playlists, if you want to go to under the comments, if you want to go in the community, do whatever. I think it lets you upload videos in there. I think. So if you want to upload videos, you can throw videos in there. Like if you don't mind people seeing your form and stuff. We're just the better viewers. See. Yeah, it's a good time. This has been a very, very nice out for me to get to upload and post for all of you guys. I'm glad that it's gone off, and I'm glad people are actually enjoying the stuff I have to say, because I feel like I definitely tend to go off the rails pretty often, but it's good stuff because I don't like to talk down on anybody else, and I think it's horrible. But I really think that I really do wish that a lot more like of my peers and stuff that coach and all that, I really wish that more people adopted a philosophy similar to mine, because my opinion, I just think it's a better way of going about explaining stuff, because it's just such a different sport. Like, there are no sports. Like, that makes no sense. Could you just imagine playing any other sport where there's some aspect that's just invisible? Like, that's so weird. Like, could you imagine playing, like, basketball and the hoop is just, like, not there? Like, it's just an invisible hoop? Like, that's hard to, like, explain those concepts to anybody, especially if you're brand new just starting out. That's hard to explain those kinds of concepts to somebody, because it's just different than everything else. Like, how do you explain that? So I think that pathway of learning is definitely the best thing out there for you guys right now that I can provide. The other supplementary stuff and the other videos that I'll keep pumping out down the line will be useful too, but like, to understand the stuff that's later on, like, I think if you understand the pathway of learning, the other stuff will come. And for me at least, I haven't been bowling as long as a lot of other people, despite my coaching background. I just tended, for some reason, I tend to have a faster, like, understanding of picking up on the concepts, but since I don't have a lot of time comparative to how far ahead my brain is of understanding, like, a lot of times I know what to do, but since I just don't have the time under my belt, like, my execution can fall flat quite often. And that can be frustrating in and of itself, but I'd much rather be frustrated at the fact that I understand what's going on but can't do it, as opposed to just being in this perpetual state of just confusion, anger, and resentment against the sport because I don't understand it, right? So at times, especially for all of you watching, and if you're newer, like, you might get frustrated because of the fact that you know, okay, I know what I have to do here. I see what the pins are doing. I see what the lane's doing, but I just can't hit my target physically because I'm just newer to the sport, or I can't be as consistent in this certain aspect because I'm newer to the sport. Like, that's frustrating, but just be grateful if that's the problem you're having, and it's not a problem of, oh, I left 18 10 pins last weekend in league or whatever. Like, I would so much rather just like know what's happening and just have to just go out there and find time to get out there and practice, as opposed to just being in a perpetual state of confusion. At least that's just me anyway. So, alrighty, the clock has struck 6:30. So I am going to take some more medicine because my nose is about clogged up all the way. I've been a mouth breather this whole time. So I'm going to take some medicine, but thank all of you. I want to thank all of you again for tuning in and for continuing to support me as I try to support all of you in the best way I can and provide the best means of giving back. Like I said, I hope that I can, oh my gosh, I hope that I can keep on uploading at the rate I have been. I don't see anything popping up that will restrict me. I'm hoping to get 2 videos done this week. That's my goal. I like to think I definitely could. I would like to think I definitely could. So just make sure you stay tuned. And again, stay engaged. Keep asking questions, because that is what's going to make sure that I give all of you back the best experience that I can. Because I know what I want to say, but I don't know what you guys want and need. And by you guys telling me what you are not understanding and what you need, that helps me cater what I'm creating to what the viewers need. So keep on telling me what you want. Stay engaged. I know Epic was the first noble person to go into the community tab on the thing and make a post in there, and I'm very, very, very happy that you did that. So I hope more of you will start following in Epic's shoes and start feeling obligated and welcome to post, because no one will judge you. This is a judgment-free zone, and if there is judgment, I will remove comments. I can take stuff down. Like, I'm not about that. This is meant to be us all supporting each other in a good way and making sure that we're all being the best us that we all can be. So I hope all of you enjoyed your weekend, and I hope you all have a great, awesome, lovely week as the weather starts to get a little bit colder. So again, just reach out if you have anything. So alrighty guys, take care.